Open the podcast bay door as hell.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 131 of Welcome to Geektown. Andy Wilson from Kiss Your Franchise Goodbye returns to chat with me about this latest episode of She-Hulk. Unfortunately, I found out last minute that none of the women I had talked to about being on the show were available this week. I tried to get someone else last minute in order to have a female perspective on this very female-centric show, but did not have any luck, so it's just the two of us. But hopefully you'll still enjoy our discussion, which starts with the episode's title and what that foretells about this particular episode. Mean, green, and straight poured into these jeans.
Oh, wow. What a title.
So we know going in to expect lots of cringe and lots of embarrassment.
That is the theme of this episode. I feel really badly. I think this has been my least favorite episode so far because I just felt bad for Jen like the entire time, or just like putting her through a ringer, and was tough to watch.
It's tough to watch. I still enjoyed I still am loving the show.
It's good. It's good. Yeah, I like it. But
I mean, when you love a character as much as we're loving Jen, I think it's hard to watch her go through those sorts of embarrassing and cringeworthy moments.
Yeah, there were lots of them.
Yeah. Starting right at the very beginning with Titania's ad.
Yikes.
For She-Hulk by Titania.
Every bad social media influencer out there.
Yeah, and every bad makeup or beauty product commercial as well.
Yeah.
Just combining it all. In addition to seeing the commercial on TV, Jen passes a billboard. She's advertising on the podcast that Jen listens to. She is apparently everywhere.
That was the worst. She can't even listen to her lawyer podcast, and she's getting ads for Titania. That sucks.
Yeah. And even her family is getting in on it.
Ched, we got to see Ched again.
Ched comes back and continues to point to my theory that Bruce was being sarcastic when he called Ched one of the smart ones in the family.
Gotta be, yeah. That has definitely proved to be the case.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he has time to hawk high-end merchandise on the side. Isn't he supposed to be managing that Best Buy? What's going on?
Everyone's got a side hustle these days.
I guess so. Even if you're a manager of a Best Buy, you gotta get out and stack those bills.
Yeah, well, I don't know how well manager of a Best Buy really pays. Most retail establishments aren't great when it comes to paying even management positions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I could totally understand Ched looking for other sources of income, but he chose the wrong one this time, because if you can't even research enough to know that your cousin is not involved, then you're making a mistake.
Oh, and this was the first worst, cringiest moment is when he tries to mansplain copyright to,
yes.
Yeah. Jen. Oi, Ched,
Yeah.
buddy guy, don't. She went to law school. A very good law school. Don't talk to her about trademark law. Yikes.
I mean, every lawyer has their own area of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that is always glossed over in lawyer television shows.
Mm-hmm.
If you work for a law firm, you work in a very specific department. And so trademark law might not be Jen's thing, but she's still gonna know more than Ched.
But she at some point took a class on like
Oh yeah,
trademarks and
no,
patents and
yeah, like I said, she knows
the
still gonna
basics.
know. Yeah, she's still gonna know more than any average person on the street, and so for Ched to, as we both said, for him to mansplain it to her is an offense of the highest order.
Yeah. And probably the only reason he didn't get decked is because he's family.
Yeah. No, instead she screams into her pillow.
Yeah.
And I immediately thought of Brooke. It's a shame she couldn't be with us today, because once again, the opening title card undergoes a change for this specific episode.
Yeah.
Instead of it being She-Hulk Attorney at Law, we get She-Hulk by Titania.
They are having fun with those. I like that.
Yeah, me too. It seems like they're always having fun with either the opening or the closing or both.
Yeah.
And now, this was a lot of fun for me, this episode, because, as I've mentioned before, I grew up in Southern California, and from college on, I spent most of my time in LA County as opposed to like Orange County or Ventura County.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing the Grove as the pop-up location was a nice LA call out there.
I am aware of the Grove, even though I have not lived in Southern California for over 20 years, but yes.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because there's 2 groves in Southern California, and having not been there for a while, I was like, wait, are they talking about the Grove at Anaheim? That's a concert venue. Oh, wait, no, there's the Grove at LA, which is, one of those outdoor shopping locations that is, it's basically an outdoor mall, but it is all high-end shops.
Yeah.
And, they do have these pop-up events like Titania has in this episode.
There's a great joke in The Simpsons one time where they go to the upscale mall and the sign says, "Our prices discriminate, so we don't have to."
Yeah, that sounds about right. Or about white, as it may be.
Indeed.
Yeah, so Jen and Nikki show up at this event in order to call Titania out, and I haven't been to a lot of these pop-up type events. I've been to a couple, mostly related to like movies and stuff, but this looked very typical of that.
Yeah.
And I love Jen's reaction when she sees Snake Venom Limp Plumper. She's literally selling snake oil.
Yes.
And then the beauty serum, the beauty oil, the beauty tonic. But Nikki stands up for the products and says, no, those are all completely different.
Obviously. Completely different. You don't want to mix up your beauty tonic and your beauty. I don't even remember what the other names were. Yeah.
Well, I do technically know that a tonic is going to be different from an oil or a serum, because a tonic is usually something you drink.
Oh, okay.
Whereas oils are put on the body, and a serum could be either. That's hard to say. You know
what we really need? We need an explanation from Madison. I guarantee you Madison knows the difference. Madison just popped up and was like, yeah, a serum does this, and then you use the tonic for this. Thank you, Madison. I appreciate it. Oh, you're welcome.
Yes, yeah. Madison would definitely be great at explaining all of that to us.
Yeah.
Although I think Nikki, if she was asked, would also have no problems explaining the differences.
Right. Nikki seemed like she could hang in this situation.
Oh, definitely. Nikki is a chameleon, I think. She can go anywhere and fit in. She'll call from the club and be dancing with everybody, or she'll go to the pop-up event, or she'll end up at the richest fashion artist in LA, and she will be able to wrap them around her finger wherever she is.
Which is also, I think, a key plot point throughout this episode of what Nikki
definitely.
keeps doing. So, yeah,
Yeah.
props to Nikki.
But unfortunately, she doesn't really help Jen out here in this specific instance.
Sadly, no.
Because the confrontation between Titania and Jen does not really go in Jen's favor here.
No, in fact, she gets roped into taking a photo of Titania and one of her fans.
Yes.
And Jen, being the kind, gentle soul that she is, she's like, okay, just one.
But that's it.
That's it.
Then I'm done.
Oh, Jen Walters, you're such a good person.
She's so kind, and she just gets walked all over.
Yeah.
Since that doesn't go her way, they end up back at the office, and Jen is still claiming to be conflicted on the She-Hulk name.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, she's still saying, hey, that's just what people decided to call me. It's not who I am. It's just something that happened to me. She's still going through her kind of crisis of identity. She's not fully comfortable with being She-Hulk still. But I find it interesting that even though she's not willing to say out loud yet, yes, I am She-Hulk, she's still willing to go to court over it. She's still willing to fight for it.
Yeah.
And she's getting mad enough to crush a stapler while she's just looking at Titania's info online.
Right. And that's very obviously, she's saying something and probably having a very different emotional response. She doesn't want necessarily to have to be She-Hulk, but she is, and she's definitely not going to let someone as basic as Titania get away with this, and it's really getting under her skin.
Yeah. In the meantime, however, we cut back to Nikki, who is being asked a favor by Pug.
And what a favor it is.
Yes. We've been seeing the ads in different places in the show for the Iron Man 3s.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently these are a very limited edition sneaker because Pug needs a second person in line with him in order to buy a second pair.
One to rock and one to stock.
It's how it works with these things. When you're a strong enough collector, when something is important enough to you, you'll do that. You'll get one to read, one to slab for the comic book collectors.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of that. I think if you are very serious about having a collection and you do want one that you can keep that's pristine, and then you should have one to have fun with.
To show off.
Yeah, especially if you're like a toy collector or something. Like, have one that you take out of the box and you play with, and it's okay that it's out of the box. You've still got the one that is sealed in carbonite, and you're fine.
Yeah. My very first San Diego comic book convention, which was also my very first comic book convention I ever went to.
Nice.
I got a t-shirt specially made. There was an airbrush artist there, and he was doing custom-made t-shirts. And he warned me, he was like, this probably is only going to last 1 or 2 washes before it fades out. And I was like, that's okay. I want to wear it. I want to show it off. I want to wear it. I'm going to wear it, wash it, keep it as long as I can, but I understand that going in. That shirt is the miracle of Hanukkah because it still hasn't faded.
Oh, very nice.
I wore that thing regularly for years. Now, the actual material, like at the seams, it's starting to tear and rip. So I don't wear it anymore, and I plan on getting it framed now so that I can keep it
definitely
in its pristine condition. But yeah, that is one of my equivalents to the nice sneakers is my airbrushed Speedball t-shirt.
That's very nice. And I mean, shout out to all the sneakerheads out there, people who like really, really, really are into like collecting sneakers. Like we think comic book people are into their stuff. Like sneaker people are like on another level. It's very impressive.
Well, and they're so expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, you can spend a lot on a comic book if you're looking to get something older, something that is particularly important to a particular character, first appearance of Wolverine,
Right.
Those sorts of things. You can spend a lot of money on a comic, but any limited edition sneakers, even if you're buying them brand new, they're going to be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So if you can afford that, more power to you, my friend.
Yep.
If that's what makes you happy, great.
Exactly.
I'll never be there, but good for you.
But it's all collecting, and it's all the same thing. So I mean, I certainly can't on one hand be like, oh, sneakers, that's ridiculous. Let me show you my Funko Pop collection.
Right. It's different pay scales, but it's still the same want.
Yeah.
It's still the same desire, basically.
Yep.
And so it's in this scene that we learn that Pug has a drip broker who hooks him up. Now, I had to look it up because I am just not a part of that culture at all. But apparently drip refers to expensive clothing and accessories in hip-hop culture. I heard drip broker and I'm thinking a barista.
Well, that's why they did go to
a coffee shop,
to
a
a
boba shop. Yeah.
But that's one of those words that I am not cool enough to use. Like I know who I am. I'm a middle-aged white guy. I can't get away with talking about drip. I mean, maybe if I were Pug and had the money to buy expensive things, then that might be something, but not me.
Yeah.
I do not own any drip. No.
I don't know if Pug really pulls it off either, but he certainly tries.
Yeah, a little bit of the joke there. It's kind of fun.
And so in return for Nikki helping out Pug, Pug gets to help out Nikki by hooking her up with the superhero fashionista.
Which, to get to, she tells a barista, "We're not cops" in Chinese, which, like, okay, that's out of nowhere, but also cool that Nikki knows how to say "we're not cops" in Chinese. So good for you.
I'm betting she's the kind of person who knows how to say that in a couple of different languages.
Yeah. Like, and I, she said it in a way that says this isn't the first time she said this to someone too.
Right. Yeah.
Like, she thought that this would be useful. So
yeah.
Funny.
And for those who are keeping track, the boba shop is where we get this week's QR code.
Nice. What did it point to?
It specifically goes to She-Hulk issue number 10, part of Dan Slott's run. And that is an issue that tells basically Titania's backstory. It fills in her history and her childhood in a way that hasn't been done in the comics up until that point.
Nice.
So that is by Dan Slott and Paul Pelletier. When Nikki and Pug enter the shop, there's a wide shot and you can see a QR code on one of the walls. It's always nice when they tie in the specific issue to what's happening in the story. This episode is very Titania-centric, and so to have an issue that is all about Titania, even though I'm betting their backstories are very different from one another.
Right.
The comic book and the TV version. But it's still a nice tie-in there.
It's like, hey, you like this show, here's a comic to have some more reading.
Exactly. So, now they thought that this was where they were going to get the superhero clothing made, but...
Oh no.
turns out this is just the guy who knows the guy, and this guy is selling the bootleg Avengers.
And Avengers.
And yes, got the O or the I.
Right.
And I paused to look at the boxer shorts that were up there. So the individual characters that I could see were Hulk, Holk, Thur, Thur, Hawk Guy,
Yeah.
and then Captain, something in very small letters that I couldn't read, and Iron, something in very small letters that I couldn't read. Probably like Captain Patriot or,
Iron Dude.
Yeah, Iron Dude or Iron Guy or whatever. But I love seeing Pug and Nikki in the very next scene sporting the bootleg wares.
Yeah.
I would totally buy an Avengers t-shirt.
Yeah, hook me up with
if it was
an
available.
Avengers t-shirt. Like that would be, or Avengers, either one.
Yeah.
Avengers t-shirt featuring Madison. Like that's what I want. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Nikki, despite usually being the one who's able to get people in anywhere, she almost blows it at this point. Because she gives the shrug first before she said, basically she looks at Pug and says, no, we can try this. Titania referred us. But Luke has them on camera and says, no, saw you shrug, rejected.
Yeah.
And so instead they pull out the second lie, which is, She-Hulk's an Avenger,
Yep. Close enough.
Cousin of an Avenger, actually Avenger. Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
She's an Avenger's cousin.
Yes.
But that is enough to get them a 15-minute consultation, at least.
Yes.
Gets them in the door. And, again, I'm just having so much fun with this cast, watching them go through these hoops to try to get in the door, and then doing the victory dance afterwards, and I can still see you. All those little jokes are just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to say bad things about this episode because it is still very good, but it does feel like a lot of moving some pieces around and set up for future things rather than this being, sort of a thing in itself where Jen is really moving her character arc forward a lot. There's like a tiny little bit of her acceptance of the She-Hulk moniker, but other than that, this feels like a lot more setup than payoff.
I can see that. Although I think that accepting the She-Hulk name is an important step to accepting being She-Hulk. So I think there's enough movement there to make it worthwhile.
Yep.
But speaking of her fighting for her name, we get back to the A story there with Jen's visit to Holloway's office.
Oy.
It's hard to get a read on him. He is so difficult to peg down.
Yes.
Because he calls her in and he's like, so why did I see a billboard advertising your Booty Boost smoothie?
Yes.
Jen starts to explain, and immediately he's like, you know what, I don't care.
Yep.
So he's kind of all over the place, but apparently he's already arranged for Jen to work with Mallory on this one. Because when Jen says she'll fix it, he says, no, you won't.
Yeah. But I mean, that's still a good move.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Mallory calls it out at the very beginning of their conversation.
Right. And it's the old adage, the person who is a lawyer for themselves is a fool for a client.
Yes.
Or, something to that effect. I may have mangled that just the tiniest bit. But yeah, the best lawyers will always have someone else represent them in court, no matter how good you are. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need that distance
Mm-hmm.
in order to properly argue the case.
Right.
And so, we got that very brief introduction to Mallory in episode 2, but this is our first real scene with Mallory, who, once again, is another character from Dan Slott's run and is Jen's boss in the current She-Hulk book, being written by Rainbow Rowell. And she's another one that it's hard to get a read on here. Although I think she's pretty close to her comic book equivalent, because at the very beginning she says, look, we're not colleagues. I'm the lawyer, you're the client. That's the only way this is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one tiny moment where she really opens up to Jen, and that's at the very end of the episode.
Yeah.
So she's very much, I'm here to do my job. That's all I'm here for. I'm not here to make friends.
Yeah.
And that's how she is in the comics as well. She's never really Jen's friend. She's her coworker, she's her boss, she's her rival at times. But even when she's helping Jen out, it's not because they're friends. It's because it's what's best for Mallory or for the company or for the client.
And Renee Elise Goldsberry doing such a wonderful job with this role. I've mentioned before how much I love her. She was wonderful in Hamilton as Angelica Schuyler. Those of you who have listened to that, yes, that's who this is. This is a lot of fun, and she's obviously having a lot of fun with this role, even though it is a very stiff role. She understands what she's doing, and she's doing wonderful work here.
Yeah, there's not a weak point in the cast at all.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah.
They're all doing a great job. And this is very much Mallory's episode to shine, so we get a lot of good moments from her. She explains their plan to countersue, which makes total sense given the situation, and says, I'm happy to have you as my client as a professional courtesy, but you can't dress like a football player going in to plead a DUI.
It's a very specific reference, but I'll take it.
I mean, as soon as she said that, and then it cuts back to Jen in her slightly oversized suit, even when she's She-Hulk.
Right.
It was like, okay, yep, I see exactly what you're saying, and you're dead on.
Yeah.
And Nikki pops in and says, I've got this.
I'm
already on it.
Yep.
Unfortunately, not soon enough for the first part of the hearing, however.
Right.
Because they go to court in the very next scene, and She-Hulk is still in her big and tall suit, which Titania calls out.
Yeah. It says, nice suit, Shrek. Is that what you...
Yes.
Yeah. Yikes. Mean Girls vibe going on there, Titania. Come on.
Yeah, she's had that vibe since her first appearance, I think.
Right. But still, you're better than that. Be better. Come on. No. Anyway.
I have seen no evidence to this point that Titania is better than that.
No.
This seems totally in her character.
No, totally in character. I'm just, I'm just riffing on. And again, a great work by Jamila Jamil, who day in, day out on The Good Place played just such this light, effervescent breath of fresh air. And here she is being so raunchy and so mean, but I still kind of like her.
Well, she's playing very much the flip side or the darker side of that character from The Good Place.
Agreed.
In both cases, she's kind of vapid and obsessed with fame. But in The Good Place, she at least had that pure heart and wanted to be a good person, but was basically weighed down by all of her privilege. Whereas Titania doesn't really even seem to have that altruistic motivation.
Yeah.
It's just, look at all my followers, look at all the stuff I can sell. Look at me.
Yep. Yep.
And so we get a brief kind of pre-hearing where both sides are basically asking for summary judgment in their favor.
Mm-hmm.
Titania's lawyers are like, let's just dismiss the whole thing. And then Mallory is like, instead, I want you to rule in summary judgment for my side and make them cease manufacturing She-Hulks, make them stop using the She-Hulk name. Yeah, I mean, Mallory is a great lawyer in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
She has all the right arguments at her side. She has, she immediately has the evidence that she wants to call up. She is extraordinarily competent, and you can see it in every line, every decision she makes.
Yep.
It's not quite enough to win over the judge, but it at least doesn't immediately go Titania's way. So there's a recess until Thursday, and so there's some time for both sides to collect what they need to in order to have a proper hearing.
Yeah.
Which then leads into She-Hulk's appointment with Luke. Now, I've referred to him as Luke, and Nikki calls him Luke, but that's the first time that we get his name, and I didn't hear them actually say it in the show, but Luke does have a last name.
Okay.
And he is Luke Jacobson.
Okay, is that something I should know?
Not unless you're into really obscure Marvel titles.
Oh well, no.
Because he is a supporting character from the Dakota North miniseries, who is a character who originally wasn't even presented as being in the Marvel Universe. She was a private investigator and then eventually showed up in the Marvel Universe, guest starring in other people's titles here and there. And so this is, like I said, a supporting character in a book that wasn't originally part of the Marvel Universe, but was published by Marvel. So extraordinarily obscure. They are just basically pulling out a name that they're like, well, hey, we have someone who's a fashion designer in the Marvel Universe, technically.
That's very interesting and funny.
Yeah. As usual, I watched this 3 times, but I never heard him called out as being Luke Jacobson.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible that we get it in a later episode, but according to all of the wikis and such, that is who he is, and that is who they are referencing with this appearance.
That's very interesting.
And, I mean, obviously, this actor, Griffin Matthews, is having so much fun playing the most over-the-top version of a fashion designer possible.
Yeah. It's like literally straight out of Central Casting. This is a very broad character, but...
Oh, exactly. But he's totally having fun being that broad. He knows what he's playing. He knows the kind of scene that this is. So he's playing up the laughs.
Yeah. That scene was a lot of fun, and the final joke, get me the stretch wool, we're going to need a lot of fabric. And it's like he's like...
Yeah, because he was going to refuse to do the work at first until he saw the challenge of making an outfit that fit both Jen and She-Hulk.
Right.
And I'm really going to be interested to see what that outfit looks like.
Yeah.
Or outfits, because as we'll see in the later scene, he made more than one.
Right. That will be interesting. And the transition when she shrinks down and she's in that giant suit, it's like, it's got a real, like, the 13-year-old wearing their dad's suit at the bar mitzvah thing. Like, this is very obviously too big for me, but that's what we're rocking today, folks. So
this was one of the first times, we didn't actually get to see the full transformation, but this is one of the rare times that it wasn't just on Jen's face as she's transforming back from She-Hulk to Jen.
Mm-hmm.
We actually got to see some of that. The thing I was most interested in was her hair, watching it transform back, because, she goes from long straight hair to shorter curly hair.
Yeah.
And so we didn't get to see the full transformation, but we did get to see the hair kind of retreat back some as she made her change. So
Yeah.
apparently that's how it works.
Yeah. I mean, a fun transformation and good to see it. And time goes on, the CGI bothers me less and less. There was very little in this episode that bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed a bit more smooth, or at least I think they were building the shots around what they were good at doing with the CGI versus some of the stuff where it did look a little less polished.
Yeah. And I mean, it may be just that they have more time.
Yep, literally. I mean, yep.
If you're following the entertainment news at all, you'll be seeing stories about the various FX houses that are working with Disney and all of the other companies, really. Disney gets called out specifically. Disney and Marvel get called out specifically. But it's really all of the companies that are doing this that are basically rushing them to get all of the effects out.
Right.
And so they don't necessarily have the time to do as much work as they want to do that one extra pass that just makes things a little bit smoother and gets you out of the uncanny valley.
Right.
But as the show progresses, since they have an extra week and then another extra week to finish off these effects, and this was the first episode that wasn't made available early to critics.
Ah, interesting point.
So this one, they actually probably had an extra 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Compared to the first 4 episodes.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean that's the old thing, with all sort of digital development. It's like you have fast, cheap, and good, and the rule is pick two. You can pick two. When you want it fast and you have a limited budget for a streaming series, then sometimes you get what you get. So it'll be interesting to see, if the back half of the season is a little more polished. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I really liked what they were able to do specifically with those transformations. Those were a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
But moving on from that scene, we go back to the office very briefly, and we find out that one of Mallory's other clients is Todd.
Todd. Did we know his name before? I don't think we knew his name before.
Probably not.
Yeah. That's okay.
It may have come up, but I don't recall us having learned it necessarily.
Yeah.
He was just one of the montage of men. Specifically, he was as I referred to him, the star effer.
Yeah.
But the superhero.
the superhero fetishist is how Jen apparently described him to Nikki in their previous conversations. And calling her a specimen and continuing with some of that creepy dialogue in the way he's continuing to talk to her. Yikes.
Yes. There were 2 moments. I've forgotten what the other one is. It might come to me as we're talking about the rest of the show. But there were 2 moments that I specifically thought of as Arrested Development callouts.
Oh. Yeah.
Because he says, I was just talking to my favorite lady lawyer here, and he reaches out and he just brushes her shoulder, and Mallory says, no touching.
No touching. No touching. No touching.
No touching.
Yeah.
No touching.
Yeah. So maybe that's 2 episodes in a row now where we're getting a little bit of Arrested Development energy between this and the potential Joe Bluth inspired magic from Donnie Blaze. So
right.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. Well, if you're gonna steal from the best.
Yeah, but also a really good character moment for Mallory, that she really is
Yes.
all business, and she would be the one who, yeah, she's representing this guy who obviously has like some sort of superhero thing going on. She's in superhuman law, but she's like, no, you cannot touch me. I am your lawyer. Back off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Another moment to show Mallory is all business.
Hmm.
Yeah, and just those little character beats there, that tell us about a character and who they are. Those are what make a show like this work,
Right.
as opposed to one where it's just joke after joke after joke after joke,
Hmm.
without anything to root the humor in any sort of realism or character moment.
Right.
But Todd, despite his creepiness, helps Jen come to a realization of how she's going to win.
Hmm.
She and Nikki are talking over lunch, and Jen's like, wait a minute. I went on a bunch of dates as She-Hulk. I made a She-Hulk profile. That's how I win.
Hmm.
That shows a clear pattern of use,
Right.
which is the phrase that the judge called out earlier.
Right.
And I'm sure is a common phrase in trademark and copyright disputes.
I assume so. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I don't.
yeah.
I'm not a lawyer, but the fact that they specifically call out that phrase and use it a couple of times
Hmm.
makes it seem like that is probably an important yardstick
Yeah,
that is used for deciding these cases.
I would think so.
And so we get the return of the montage of men.
Oh, so painful.
Although before we get that, Mallory goes over the rest of Jen's dating profile,
Oh, yes.
where we get the episode title shout out,
Oh,
and then the what she's looking for in a partner. And I think this really shows how different Jen and She-Hulk really are, even if Jen doesn't want to admit it.
hmm.
Because can you picture, even for a moment, even adding JK, JK, JK afterwards, can you imagine Jennifer Walters making as blatantly sexual a comment on a dating profile?
I mean, I wish she would. I think she'd be happier if she did. But,
Yeah, but do you see her as the kind of person who would do that, though?
no, absolutely not. And that's, to your point about this being about her embracing She-Hulk, and if that is the sort of overall arc of this entire series, taking on that alter ego, just being like, yeah, you know what? I am more comfortable as She-Hulk because I can be, well, unprotected. Is probably a bad
Probably
word
not
here.
Yeah,
I can
probably not the right phrase for this particular.
Yeah, I can.
But she can.
But she can
She
let her
can be
guard
open.
down. Yeah.
She can. Yeah.
Yeah.
She can feel safe in saying what she wants and not feeling like she's going to be in danger at any point.
Right. Exactly.
By leaving herself open in that way.
Right. Because if she were to put that on her actual profile, I mean, you can't imagine the DMs that she'd be getting. It would be just immediate,
no, it would be nothing but dick pics.
Yeah. That would be it. That would be it.
Yeah.
And RIP that profile for Jen Walters. So, it goes back to earlier when she's talking with Nikki about it. Like, I do like it because I can walk home at night with my headphones on. She's like, every girl's dream. And I'm like, that's said as a joke, but how true that has to be.
But it's real.
Yeah.
When I lived in LA, there was a brief period of time where my car was impounded and I had to take the bus and walk places.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not the most strapping of men, you know, and so I was nervous walking around the San Fernando Valley, and I constantly carried pepper spray with me.
Mm-hmm.
And with that additional layer of, you know, my big fear was getting mugged, getting robbed.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even imagine the fear that you would go through trying to walk around LA by yourself if there was the real, legitimate fear of the things that sadly happen on a regular basis to women.
Yeah.
So the fact that She-Hulk can do that she can walk around and not worry about any of that, that must be every woman's dream.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Nikki can joke about it, but it comes from a place of truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And the idea that we could try to point society in that direction seems so, I mean, it seems as impossible as, you know, as vibranium and, you know, magic hammers. But that actually could or should be something we're trying to do. Sadly, it feels like we're often in a, you know, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back with a lot of that.
Yeah.
In our sexual politics, especially the last, say, 6, 7, 10 years. So, yeah. But so shout out to She-Hulk for being like, yeah, I can be, you know, I don't have to let my guard down because I'm the strong one. I don't have to worry about all of these other concerns. I can take it.
Mm-hmm. But we're still in the courtroom.
Yeah, we are.
And there was one moment in particular with the final guy, the one who She-Hulk had a night with and then left Jennifer in the morning.
Ooh, you suck.
Well, yes.
Yeah,
but there was a moment where he explains, you know, I never would have gone on a date with her if she presented as Jennifer.
Yeah.
And in the courtroom, Jennifer is always in her She-Hulk form. And even through the CGI, this was a moment where I really noticed how they nailed the facial expressions.
Yeah.
Because you could totally see the discomfort that she was feeling in that moment.
Yeah.
The CGI is getting even better than it was. And so I specifically wanted to call out that moment as one that was impressive.
Yeah. It's a really, I mean, it's so hard because this episode and especially the sequence is so cringe inducing, but those character moments really are really important. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, it's completely embarrassing for her. She's totally uncomfortable for Jen, but it wins them the case.
Mm-hmm.
Much to Titania's surprise. I loved the she kind of pulls herself together for a moment. You can see that Titania is like ready to be a quote unquote gracious winner at that moment, but then it goes in the opposite direction and she just looks at her lawyer like, what? You didn't win? What's happening?
Mm-hmm.
And she delivers the line, another one of those lines that I could never deliver successfully. This isn't over, hater.
It's again such a really good line because it shows exactly what her frame of reference is here. That it can't be, oh, I did something wrong. It's got to be, well, Jennifer Walters is a hater. She just doesn't like me because I'm successful.
Exactly.
And so it's this great like narcissism that we're getting just from that single line. That's great script writing.
Mm-hmm. And the tag on that, as Titania is leaving the courtroom, the toxic masculinity guy is like, hey, sorry to hear that happened to you. And Titania is like, All right, you can buy me
You can
things.
buy
Let's
me
go.
something. Yeah, that sounds cool. They're made for each other.
If that's what you want, that's what makes you happy. Good for you. You're shallow, but whatever.
Hmm. Yep.
And this is the moment where Mallory actually shows a little bit of kindness here, opens up for a second, and says, "Ignore what that incredibly handsome man said. You deserve better."
Yeah, and acknowledging that what she just went through was actually embarrassing and traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a little bit of humanity, just enough.
Now, this was the only moment to me that didn't really feel earned, was they go and get a drink together,
Hmm.
and Jen is like, "I'm so happy we're friends now." And, Mallory does the double take, and Jen's like, "Oh my God, did I just say that out loud?" That whole thing.
Oops.
And that part makes sense to me, but I wish there had been more moments between Mallory and Jen before this point. Something showing how aloof Mallory had been the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, before Mallory took her on as a client, we only had that one scene with her coming in and turning down Dennis's case.
Mhm.
If we had had just one or two more scenes where Jen approaches Mallory in the office and says, "Hey, can I get your opinion on this?" Or, "Hey, what are you doing after work today?" Or something where she tried to make a connection and failed. I think that would have made this moment much more earned.
Yeah, a little bit. It's always so hard because we don't know what the production schedule is, what the writer's room is like. If they had proposed that and there was a scene that they wrote, but it didn't really work, they didn't like it, so they decided to get rid of it. It's like, oh, well, that would have been great to put in these episodes, but it doesn't really fit tonally, and the budget's already too high. Those episodes are too long. Can we put it somewhere else? And just sometimes, we
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have
no,
room for everything. And so I agree with you. That would have been a very nice touch. I would have liked to have seen something like that. But I'm also willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because the previous 4 episodes have been so tight and so really excellent that it's like, it's hard to naysay some of that.
Well, we get one last cutting line from Mallory as she exits saying, "I thought you were going to get better clothes."
Oh, yikes. It's true.
But that at least reminds Jen, "Oh yeah,
Oh,
my
yeah,
clothes.
my
Let's
clothes.
go get those." And we're at the end of the episode. Jen gets to try on her outfits. We don't get to see any of them. Although I assume that the little something extra that Luke made is the unitard that we've seen in the trailers.
That's what I assumed that as well. That classic white and green and purple outfit. Yep.
And so it'll be fun to see that, hopefully next episode. And we get a little bit of a tease as Luke puts away a hat box and we see inside the yellow Daredevil helmet.
Woo! So excited. I mean, please, yes. Let's get Matt Murdock in here. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I have been a Charlie Cox fan since Stardust.
Oh, wow. That's a really underrated movie. That is a
It really
great
is.
movie, right?
I love that movie so much. I think it's not quite the same tonally, but I think it is basically the next generation's Princess Bride.
Yeah. I mean, it very, very Princess Bridey, sort of like Jim Henson, Labyrinth, Dark Crystal type stuff. It's a great movie. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Lots of fun.
So yeah.
Charlie
so
Cox.
I have loved Charlie Cox since seeing him in that film, and so I am always grateful to get more Daredevil, and the fact that we're going to get a lighter toned both in costume and in personality.
Yeah.
One that is less influenced by Frank Miller and more influenced by Mark Waid's
Hmm.
run, where he's sort of a swashbuckler.
Yeah.
He's the man without fear.
Yeah.
He's the guy who will jump off of a roof, do an acrobatic spin on a flagpole, and land with a flourish.
Yeah.
I can't wait until we get to have more of him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I'm very glad for that. I mean, I loved the Daredevil series. I think Daredevil season 1 is a masterpiece. But it is very, very R-rated and very dark. And
Yeah.
and that's not for everybody. And I agree. I would love for there to be a little bit more of that. Now, I agree. The Mark Waid run, great. I really like the Brubaker stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Which kind of splits the difference, I think, there. Great stuff. But yeah, can't wait, especially given his appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home. We probably are going to get a more fun Daredevil. He's a very good lawyer.
And hopefully we'll get to see some of that in the show as well.
It'll be fun.
I would love to see. It's funny that in the comics, it wasn't until I think about 2010 or so that Jennifer Walters and Matt Murdock actually faced one another in court. It's hard to believe it took that long, but I really hope we get to see it in the show here.
That would be fun. It would be fun if even if they're on the opposite sides of a case, if they just have kind of a superhero meet cute, that can also be fine. So,
yeah.
Although Jennifer Walters should never date Matt Murdock because everybody who Matt Murdock dates ends up dead. So don't date Matt Murdock. It's the number one rule.
Although
okay, not everyone, but he's got a track
in
record.
In the comics, at least, Black Widow is still alive.
Okay.
In the MCU, she's not, but he didn't date her in the MCU.
Oh yeah, true. So
at least not that we know of.
Yeah, he has a track record of dead ex-girlfriends, the likes of which only James Bond knows. The equal. So
well, before we wrap up this episode, there was a specific closing credits image that I had to call out because it called out to my nerdy little heart.
Okay. And I have something I need to say too, but go ahead.
And that is Pug's shoe collection.
Oh, yeah. Was there a specific shoe that I missed?
There were so many shoes.
Really?
In that. Yes. So, going basically in reading order, top to bottom, left to right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of these I have question marks on, and a couple of them were so generic that I couldn't tell for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones that I add a questioning tone, I'm not 100% sure on, but I have a strong feeling. And so here are the shoes in reading order. Gambit,
Ooh.
Hawkeye, Juggernaut, Doctor Strange, Falcon, Hulk, 70s Captain Marvel, something in blue and yellow that I could not tell for sure. One suggestion was Sentry.
Oh, interesting.
Next we have Cable or Shatterstar, because it was a shoe with pouches and an X logo. Then we have Captain America, Ghost Rider, Nova, an unknown plain yellow, Bishop, Thing, one that I'll skip for now, Namor, Green Goblin, Vision, a plain white one that was unknown, Electro, modern Captain Marvel, Cyclops, an unknown red and blue, Spider-Man, Black Panther, Moon Knight, and then, of course, the Iron Man one in Pug's hands. And now let me go back to the one that I skipped. We have the first MCU call out to my favorite superhero of all time. There is a speedball shoe
No way.
on Pug's rack. It is blue with orange soles with black circles in the orange. It is as clear as a speedball as it can be to a speedball fan that is a speedball shoe. And that made me grin from ear to ear.
Wow. That's really cool. I mean, obviously this is winking because we obviously haven't been introduced to
so many of those characters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Dan Slott got on Twitter, and as a no prize attempt for those unfamiliar, back in the 60s and 70s, when a reader would write in and explain a plot hole or some sort of continuity error or anything like that, if they wrote a good enough explanation, Stan Lee would send them a no prize, which was an envelope that says, "Congratulations, you're the proud owner of a no prize," and it is an empty envelope because there is no prize inside. So anyway, Dan Slott went for the no prize, and he said that one of Pug's first cases was helping America Chavez. And so she gets him shoes from other dimensions where those heroes exist.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that idea.
Yeah. It's, again, obviously not an official explanation, and, this is all just winking at the comic book fans. But the amount of detail and attention that went into that one closing credits slide just shows how much love these people have for the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, that's so funny because I just glossed right past that because I was looking at the Iron Man shoes and I'm like, those are really cool shoes. And I didn't even think of looking at the background. I mean, that'll teach me because it's like it's staring you right in the face. Amazing. I wanted to say something many episodes ago. I think both in the first and second episode, I spent a lot of time talking about Abomination and speculating about Abomination being in the Thunderbolts. There was an announcement from Disney of who their Thunderbolts lineup is going to be. He's not in it. I was wrong. I'm a big enough person to admit that. It's okay. I'm very glad that Emil Blonsky is going to go live on his commune with his soulmates, not have to be in the Thunderbolts. That's okay.
But speaking of people you wanted to show back up in the MCU, did you hear about who the villain in Captain America New World Order is?
I did indeed, and that it's going to be Samuel Stern, the leader.
Yes.
That makes me very happy.
Yeah, me too.
So, yeah. So, again, interesting to find out if they tease him more in here. Still a possibility, but really cool that he's going to be a major villain in a future movie. And we get more Tim Blake Nelson. So I'm always happy about that.
That's always a good thing. Exactly.
Always happy about that.
And so no tag in this episode.
No tag. That's okay.
No post-credit scene, but I think the Daredevil tease is a good button and a nice way to leave us on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And wanting to bring us in for the next episode. So
yeah, that's probably intentional. It's like they already know people are going to lose it on the Daredevil thing, so may as well just leave it with that.
Yeah. As always, I'd like to thank my guest, Andy Wilson, who you can hear on Kiss Your Franchise Goodbye, where he and the other hosts go over their thoughts on various long-standing film franchises, especially how they influence and are influenced by the point in history they were made and released. And as always, don't forget that I'd love to hear from listeners on what they think about each episode, so please join in the conversation by emailing me at welcome2geektown, all spelled out, @gmail.com. Or you can go to the website, welcome to, the number 2 in this case, geektown.com and click the Submit a Question link if you prefer to send in your comments anonymously. Other contact options include facebook.com/welcome to Geektown or Twitter @GeektownPodcast. Also, if you'd like to support the show directly, come join the Patreon at patreon.com/welcome to Geektown for just $1 per month to get access to full scripts of the shows, audio outtakes, and a monthly shoutout. You can also help the show grow by subscribing and giving a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts to join the Geektown City Council, which helps other people find the show so we can all tell them,
Welcome to Geektown. Population, us.
Welcome to Geektown is written, narrated, edited, and produced by me, Kurt Onstead. Theme music is by Aaron Lovitz, logo art by Archie Santana. All other sound clips of the copyrighted material, their respective owners, and no infringement is intended, falling under fair use.